Hey guys, Mariah B. Story here again. This is the longer Archaeology Avengers video. You see on the left, my thumbnail. You see on the right, my sketch. I don't usually color sketches, but this time I was working with a client, so I needed approval for the coloring. So the process part that you are not seeing is the part where I pose for every single character, and then you'll see with this is Carlton Gover, a real-life archaeologist. The blue line on him comes from my pose, which is so fun because he is 6 feet something and I'm 5'1". And so translating my poses into every single, I call them figure drawings, that I do is, time consuming and difficult, but I learn anatomy that way somehow. Anyway, so then you'll see the pink lines. The pink lines are the clothing lines. The clothing, of course, is based on a video that I did before where I did my clothing tests. That video describes what these people are doing, who they are. They're real-life archaeologists. They're heroic as they are, but I had to beef them up and make them just slightly more heroic. In this video, for this poster that they commissioned me to do, because they wanted it to be like a movie poster, so I did. Please watch that video because I'm not going to re-describe what everybody does right now. The one person I did not describe her work her name is Dig It with Raven, and she has a YouTube channel where she talks about all things archaeology. Her videos are adorable. This girl does crafts for her videos. So when we had that toilet paper shortage, she did the history of toilet paper video. And she made a physical copy of every single method. Like the Roman poop sticks. She had a sponge on a stick. And she had examples of all of them, which was amazing. And she was talking about the Romans the fancy Romans used the rose water to wipe their bums with, and she was like, now I have this huge thing of rose water, what do I do with it? Now that I'm done with the video, what do I do with it? And I'm over here going, People have been trying to get me to use rose water as a face cleaner for forever. Is it effective? I don't know. That's a tangent. Anyway, Dig It with Raven, her most popular videos are she and her friend will review movies from archaeological perspectives. She loves Tomb Raider, she loves The Mummy, but there's obviously a whole lot wrong with Tomb Raider and The Mummy. Tomb Raider's not a good, portrayal of what an archaeologist is and what an archaeologist does, and The Mummy is horribly wrong in terms of history and Egyptian mythology. Yeah. But see, and I knew that, and I love those movies anyway, and she loves those movies too, but it's it was like a confirmation for me to be like, thank you for, Anaxanemun does not exist at the same time as Imhotep. And her real name is Ankhesenamun and not Anaxanemun anyway. Imhotep was not a villain. Thank you. I've had this spelled out for me, now we can move on. I can live my life in peace now. So those are great. And she's famous. She doesn't need me to talk her up. Y'all go check her out. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, her videos are a lot of fun. And I think one thing I will say about Tosh Archeo's videos that I didn't cover in the last video that I made. She has videos where archaeologists discuss colonialism. Archaeologists with like vested interests and whose cultures have been directly affected by colonialism, ongoing colonialism that still exists today. Archaeology can't escape from colonialism. It's, talking about like all the way up until the 1930s, white guys just like showing up, taking stuff. And even in recent times, people are claiming that the things that have been taken and the things that are taken from these people and their cultures and moved to museums, across the ocean, that's justified. People can come up with reasons all day long and twice on Sundays, excuses for why that's fine. And, hearing the counter arguments for why you shouldn't just claim somebody else's heritage and take it and make it inaccessible to them and remove them from the people that they're descended from, modern Egyptians versus ancient Egyptians, for example, and how people, I guess, don't necessarily see them as one people. It's ongoing. So Tasha's videos can get deep like that, and I just wanted to point that out because, especially with what's going on now, she's done videos on colonialism and like the lack of African history in schools all around the world, apparently. Like, I'm from the US and I already knew that was an issue, but she and the guest archaeologists that were discussing it, they're from other places, so I guess it's a worldwide problem that needs to be addressed. And kudos that there are people out here trying to make a difference, and they're archaeologists and they're educators, and so that's super important. Speaking of archaeology and education, so I am not an archaeologist. I'm assuming I've said that before. I'm assuming you can guess because I'm a comic artist, and it's hard to have a full-blown comic career and be an archaeologist. I can't imagine what kind of student debt that would imply. What would that require? Anyway, but with my book and the amount of research that I put into it, I did make a long, incomplete but long factoid sheet for my book. It's on Line Webtoon right now. Six Petal Pyramid is the comic. You can totally go check it out, and it's gotten some positive reviews so far. I enjoy it when other comics do factoid sheets, like the comics that have history in them and everything, but I'm not always super interested. And I wasn't expecting everybody to be interested, but I got, pretty good numbers. Almost as good as when I don't post a factoid sheet, when I just straight up post a Kiyuki the mummy / not mummy anymore chilling in a bathtub, which, like, okay, that's definitely gonna pull more views, but inherently but my factoids did pretty good. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead. Again, I'm not an archaeologist, so putting that together was really daunting. I cited my sources and everything. Like one of the things that I had to sit there and talk about with my factoids sheet was the things that are based in history but are fictionalized. That's important. I read an article by another archaeologist, Steph Hamhofer, who was reviewing a comic that had to do with the Atlantis hypothetical anecdote. Atlantis is not even a myth. It was a hypothetical question by a philosopher to prove a point about politics. So it's totally made up. Anyway, so one of her gripes with this comic that she was reviewing about Atlantis was that there was fiction and then there was history and no distinction between them. And I realized I'm guilty of that on occasion. There is a fictional archaeologist who finds a fictional pyramid, and other than that, there's a lot of untouched history that's real, but where the boundaries are blurred. So I took a kind of a note from her and decided to do this factoid sheet and describe not just what there's a museum in the book, like not just describe what each piece in the museum is, also say what's been fictionalized and how, like Akiaki's sarcophagi. There's supposed to be 3 or more that are supposed to nest. The biggest, the next size down, and then the smallest one, and then you might have like a death mask, like King Tut's golden mask. But you usually, for royalty, would have like 3 sarcophagi. Well, Akiaki, you only see 2 at first. Then you see a 3rd one that doesn't fit with the others. So I had to like explain why that's wrong historically, and then also not give any spoilers away about why I made it wrong. I don't do things incorrectly without a reason. One thing I mentioned that really struck a chord with viewers was the Egyptian bead net dress, because so they would have been like a necklace the size of a dress with very large net areas crisscrossing with beads and faience, and they would have been worn probably by the pharaoh's harem ladies, because they're way too expensive and heavy for like dancers, but they're completely see-through, and they were found buried with high-class, noble women. But in the comic, I sort of hint that one was buried with a kiki, and it's the same size as the rest of his clothes. So, just putting that out there, he would have worn it, and that was not normal. It wasn't a man's outfit, and just kind of insinuating that there have always been people who think outside the box. And so the readers really thought that was interesting. And and I talk about politics a little bit with my factoid sheet, because you can't avoid it. How many of the coolest sites on the planet were excavated by the German Oriental Society, which is pre-Nazis and during Nazis and post-Nazis? And their whole reason for excavating was to prove their agenda. It's biased, flawed, and therefore, is it even usable? The point was that I made, you need to be aware of where your history is coming from, because archaeology's origins can be pretty bad. Having said that, coming back to these guys bring these issues to my attention. I'm not sure that I understood fully before I started listening to A Life in Ruins and Tosh Archeo and reading Ethnosynology's hopeful but true, dog-oriented but also very human reflective. Instagram posts. So this commission here, with these Archaeology Avengers, they wanted a picture that showed them combating the ancient astronaut theory, which you might know from the History Channel's Ancient Aliens TV program, which is in season 13 now. When it first came out, it was a little more niche, so my family, or my mom and dad and I, used to watch it together. That was 13 years ago. I was probably like 11. And impressionable, but I quickly kind of kicked the I'm not a subscriber to the ancient astronaut theory. But I also didn't realize how harmful it was until like rather recently. I am ashamed to say I feel like I learned things from Ancient Aliens back in the day. Like, whenever they would mention a site, I would write it down and research it. And I probably was influenced, you know? But their main shtick and spiel always starts out with, this site / object is too complex for the such and such culture or people to have made. It's beyond their capabilities, therefore it must have been made by aliens. Now think about that. Like, for example, the Nazca lines. The Nazca lines, they'll say, do I believe that those were made by people? Did the Nazca people possess the technology to do this? I don't think so. Dude. Did the ancient Egyptians possess the technology required to build the pyramids? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we have evidence about exactly how that went down. It's not a mystery anymore, guys. Look it up. Seriously. It's not beyond humans. We should not view human progress that way. Instead, be proud. Be proud of it, guys. Humans have been capable of amazing things for a while now. And we just get progressively more and more amazing. You know, have some love for your ancestors and the ancestors of other people. So with this picture, the purpose was to say that humans are capable, and, you know, maybe something like the Maya made this giant golden bird and stuck some big golden rods on the ceiling that are meant to look like sun rays, but this could be, and because it commonly is in the Ancient Aliens show, misconstrued as a spacecraft. Anytime they bring a bird on the show, they're like, oh, it's a flying object. No, darling, it's a bird. It's like a cartoon-like bird, simplified, like stylized to be super cool and awesome looking. But it's a bird, guys. And so the sun and the birds are things that people have always had an interest in. But that doesn't mean that aliens had anything to do with it. It's human ingenuity, it's human creativity. I'm interested in the sun and the birds. That doesn't mean that I'm an alien. Anyway, so with this piece, I wanted it to be like these guys are going into the unknown. Is it aliens? Probably not. They're gonna have to disprove it though, because right now it's kind of creepy looking, kind of ambiguous. Like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? Is that bird a spacecraft? Are those sun rays actually like a train track and the thing's gonna come rushing out of the cave at a cool angle, by the way? And the cave paintings even have that little pyramid with the spacecraft X'd out on top of it to hammer the point down. So there was a lot of thought put into this piece. A lot of idea spills coming out of me, coming out of them, comparing notes, and I'm really pleased with the final product. I think that everybody looks glorious, they look heroic, they look super cool. Like, I would totally put the fate of the world in these guys' hands. Thank you very much for watching, and have an awesome day. Hope I'll see you for the next video.